It has been 30 years ago that I attended my first conference, not as a speaker at that time, but as a participant. I was working on my master thesis on the introduction of competence-based education in vocational education and training in the Netherlands. And I still remember the questions of one of the keynote speakers, Robert Slavin, an educational psychologist. He started with the question, what if a surgeon would have fallen asleep under a tree 100 years ago and would wake up today? Would this surgeon be able to go back to his work immediately? And then he followed with a second question. What if a teacher would have fallen asleep under a tree 100 years ago and would wake up today? Would this teacher be able to go back to work? With these questions, Slavin wanted to stress that in many occupations there's a lot of change that impacts the work done. Whereas in education, these changes seem slow, or at least slower and less visible. And in the end, the job of a teacher is still more or less the same as it was 100 years ago. I still remember those questions, as they kept me busy and probably still do. I do understand why Slavin is asking those questions. How often do classrooms still look more or less the same as they did 100 years ago, except for some fancier furniture and equipment? You might think that's a sign of high quality or durability. A car produced 100 years ago that would look and run almost the same as when it came out of the factory doors would be highly prized, wouldn't it? And a watch produced 100 years ago that still runs just as well would be a jewel. So why then don't we consider that our learning system stands the test of time as well? For me, it's very simple. We are not high-precision machines that just do what they have been programmed to do. On the contrary. Otherwise, how would you explain that we are here in this room today and not hunting or gathering? We didn't get here by doing the same thing over and over. So why should we teach and learn the same way over and over again? And we do see changes. Over the past century, we increased our understanding of how people learn. Nowadays, the general assumption is that the constructivist approach is more effective than lecturing and instruction alone. New pedagogies rooted in constructivism support experiential, authentic, collaborative, and technology-supported ways of learning. Although this is not reflected in all classrooms yet, the success stories provide us with some good examples. Israel shared the example of Sal-Aviv, Tel Aviv on a cell phone, where students and teachers create interactive learning projects about special places in their community. And from Serbia, we received an example of an interdisciplinary week, where subjects and competences are offered in an integrated way to stimulate creativity among teachers and students. These and other examples show that learning contexts can and are changing. But in order to encourage a wider use of these new pedagogies, we also need to change our curricula. In our previous toolkits, we focused on the development of relevant learning outcome-based qualifications. In order to make learners benefit from these new and revised qualifications, we need to reflect the changes in our curricula as well. In general, we realize that the subject-oriented curriculum we are all familiar with, as I guess most of us here today have gone through such a curriculum, is not the most attractive and effective way to organize learning. Just let me check. Could you raise your hand if you have experienced a subject-oriented curriculum as a learner? And how many of you ever thought that you would have been more motivated and probably would have learned more if the curriculum would have been organized in a different, more authentic and meaningful manner? I thought so. The subject-oriented curriculum is often too fragmentary, as its occupational tasks are divided over different subjects and therefore not offered in an integrated way. Even theory and practice are often offered separately and not necessarily linked to each other. An extreme example I have seen is of a program where they only offered the practical classes at the end of the year after all theory classes were finished. This does not support learners to construct their own knowledge as promoted by constructivism. So how do curricula look like that facilitate more authentic ways of learning and are adaptable to the changing labor market demands? Unfortunately, but also fortunately, there's not one answer to this question. This afternoon, during the workshop on flexible curricula, we will discuss this question together. But for now, I would like to share some directions on how to create more flexible and future-proof curricula. The solution can be different in different countries and different sectors. It will depend on what you as a country, school, teacher value most. Is it about authentic learning, collaborative learning, flexibility, or readiness to react to changing labor market demands? It also depends on the context. Are there sufficient workplaces to offer internships? Are you able to create authentic learning environments in your schools? And at what level do you develop the curriculum? Is there a very prescriptive, detailed national curriculum? Or is the space to create parts or adapt parts of the curriculum at regional or school level? In sectors where industry and enterprise are very organized, which is often the case in the health sector, a workplace-oriented curriculum can be a good way to create an authentic learning environment based on the actual labor market demands. If there are less strong linkages or when the sector is less organized, a project-oriented curriculum can be a solution. Here you create projects in and preferably also outside the school to offer students an authentic work and learning experience. An example to illustrate this from the success stories comes from Tallinn Healthcare College in Estonia. Students of the social care program have to organize community days for seniors as part of the curriculum. They have to organize the day, do the marketing, and moderate the day itself. If the emphasis is on more flexibility, flexible learning pathways in combination with the adaptability to changing labor market demand, a modular curriculum can be a solution. A modular curriculum can also incorporate aspects of the curriculum, project and workplace-oriented curriculum. And on the very flexible end, we will find personalized curricula, where there are no fixed courses and modules, but where individuals create their own learning pathways based on their previous experiences and knowledge and the desired learning outcomes. Although we changed our understanding of how people learn and started designing, developing, and implementing more flexible and future-proof curricula, it still seems difficult to make this shift on a wide scale. It is not always easy to strengthen the linkages with industry and enterprise. We might not have the resources to turn our classrooms and workshops into authentic learning environments. But the biggest challenge is probably the paradigm shift we all have to make from teaching to learning. My colleague Arjen Dij will tell you more about how we can do this. But before he does, I would like to conclude my talk by stressing what I believe we need to do to create future-proof curricula that are attractive for learners and adaptable to the demands of the rapidly changing world around us. I believe that in order to do this, we need to work together as policymakers and professionals to redefine learning. Not just in projects here and there, not even just at policy level, but in our hearts, in our deepest understanding of vocational education and training. We must keep learning about what learning really is. So that if one of us falls asleep under a tree today and wakes up in 10, 20 years from now, not 100 anymore, he or she will wake up in the educational world we dream of today.